Pam.
Hey, Graham.
Hi, children.
Hi, kids.
This is Story Time with Graham. And today we're going to be reading you a few stories and hope that you enjoy them. I'm going to read Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That was a pretty cute story. I remember that one.
It is a cute story.
Once upon a time there was this princess whose skin was as white as snow and whose cheeks were red as roses and her hair was black as could be. Her name was Snow White. But she had a stepmother who was also very beautiful, but very vain. Every day she would look into her magic mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" The mirror always answered, "Well, you are, of course." Until one day when it replied, "Thou, queen, art fair and beauteous to see, but Snow White is fairer far than thee." Oh, that queen was so angry. She called a servant and ordered him to take Snow White to the forest and to do away with her. The servant loved Snow White. He couldn't do away with her. But when he returned from the forest, he told the queen that he had obeyed her order, for he knew she would send someone else to do that deed if she knew Snow White was still alive. Snow White wandered alone through the forest until she came to a small cottage. Inside, everything was arranged in sevens. She was so hungry she couldn't resist taking a small bite from each of the 7 pieces of bread that were on the plates on the wooden table. And then, because she was so tired, she lay down on one of the 7 beds and she fell asleep. She was found by 7 dwarfs. Have you ever seen a dwarf?
They're just little people.
Yeah, they are. Well, these 7 dwarfs owned the cottage that she was in. And they returned from a big day of digging at the mines. They took pity on Snow White when she told them her story. And they said, you can live here. It's okay. The following day, the wicked queen asked her magic mirror once again who the fairest in the land might be. "Queen, thou art a beauty rare," it replied, "but Snow White, living in the glen with the 7 little men, is 1,000 times more fair." Okay, the queen got very upset because she knew her servant had deceived her. She quickly dressed herself as a peddler and went to the dwarf's cottage. That can't be good, can it?
I don't know.
Oh boy. She said, "Will you buy a pretty petticoat, child?" She asked Snow White, who, alas, didn't recognize the queen. The wicked queen slipped the petticoat over Snow White's head, and she pulled it so tightly around her waist that Snow White stopped breathing. The witch left. Well, her stepmother left, the queen. I call her a witch because she didn't act very nice. So, guess what? The dwarfs came home. They found her laying on the floor, and they thought that something really dreadful happened to her. Then they saw that the lace was so tight around her, and that when they loosened it, Snow White began to breathe again. Oh, they were so happy. They said, "Look, Snow White, don't let anybody in the house.
No, not after that.
No, you just don't know what that queen's going to do." Well, the queen thought that she had done away with Snow White, and she was so happy. Until the magic mirror said that Snow White was still the fairest in the land. And the queen got more angry. She dressed herself in a disguise, and she went back to the dwarf's cottage with a poison comb in her peddler's basket. Isn't that what they used to put in your hair, the comb?
Yeah, for decoration.
Yeah, I think it held the hair back some way or other. They were very pretty, though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when she got to the cottage, she showed Snow White the comb. But she didn't tell Snow White she put poison on it. And the minute Snow White touched it, she fell asleep. Now, Queen left again, went back to wherever it was she came from. The dwarfs came home, and they took the comb from Snow White's hair, and they revived her. They said, Snow White, what happened? We told you not to let anybody in the house. From now on, don't speak to anyone unless we're here. We'll protect you. The wicked queen is trying to do away with you. She goes, I know, but I didn't recognize her as the queen. She felt horrible. Well, next day, Queen gets up and she ran to that magic mirror. The magic mirror said that Snow White was still the fairest in the land. And the queen went berserk. Oh, she was throwing stuff. She threw the mirror. She was just, beside herself. This time she said, I'm going to that cottage and I'm going to get her. She took a poison apple. Well, Snow White, being the trusting little soul she was, she forgot all about the dwarf's warning, and she took a bite of an apple that this lady had given her, and this time the dwarfs couldn't do anything to help her come back. They couldn't revive her. Gosh, they were so sad. So the queen looked in the mirror the next day, and the mirror said, Thou, queen, art the fairest in all the land. She was so happy because she did away with Snow White. The dwarfs laid Snow White in a crystal case in the forest glade, and they kept watch over her day and night. Before they loved her, they missed her. One day a prince came riding by. When he saw Snow White, whose skin was still as white as snow, her cheeks were still as red as roses, and her hair was still black as black could be, he pleaded with the dwarfs to let him take her home to his palace. The prince looked so sad when they refused that they finally had a change of heart and agreed to his request. And then, just as the prince was lifting Snow White onto his horse, the piece of apple, which, unbeknown to anyone, that was lodged in her throat, fell from her mouth, and she opened her eyes. The wicked queen could not believe it when her mirror said, O queen, although you are beauty rare, the prince's bride is 1,000 times more fair. When she saw that Snow White was the prince's bride, she choked with rage and died. Serves her right.
Karma.
Yeah. Now.
She tried to kill Snow White, and here she died herself.
Yeah, because she was so mad. She was so angry. So now Snow White had nothing to fear from the wicked queen, and she lived happily ever after with her prince. And the little 7 dwarfs visited as often as they could. Oh my gosh. Good thing that prince came by, wasn't it?
Well, a good thing she had the dwarfs, too, that was always saving her.
Yeah. She wasn't very bright, was she?
No.
Okay, Graham, would you like to read a story?
Sure.
All right.
Well, this story is an older story, and it's a very cute story.
What's it called?
The Gingerbread Man. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I believe I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, once upon a time, a little old man and a little old woman lived in a neat little house in the woods. Every day the old woman baked wonderful cookies and cakes and pies for her little old man. Oh, excuse me, I'm tangled up in my shawl here. One day, she decided she was going to bake something special for him. So, I can't turn the page. My little booklet here. Excuse me. So she made a beautiful gingerbread man. He had raisins for eyes, a currant for his nose, and a pink sugar candy waistcoat.
What's a currant?
Isn't it one of those like little fruit things that are like kind of like jelly?
I Is it like
they
a
put in
grape?
fruit cakes and stuff.
Oh, I thought it was like a grape or something.
Well, I don't know.
A raisin or a grape.
Well, she popped him in the oven to bake. When he was done, the old woman took him out of the oven, laid him on the table to cool, and went out in the yard to water her flowers. Well, as soon as she was out of sight, the gingerbread man sat up on the table. Seeing that no one was around, he climbed down and he ran out the door
Oh my
and away down the path.
gosh. But he was a cookie, right?
Well, he came to life. Maybe it was those currants.
Maybe.
Well, the little old man and woman saw him running away. Stop, stop, they cried. But the gingerbread man only laughed and called over his shoulder, Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. He ran faster, with the old man and the old woman running behind him. And then there was a gentle brown cow. He saw the ginger man running down the road. She saw how good he would taste. So she cried, Stop, stop. But the gingerbread man only laughed and said, Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
Cocky little
I
bit.
got away from the little old man and woman, and I can get away from you too. I can. And he ran faster than ever, with the old man and the old woman and the gentle brown cow running after him. Then he saw a big brown bear. He was eating honey from a tree. But when the bear smelled the wonderful gingery smell, he thought how good the gingerbread man would taste with his honey. So he cried, Stop, stop. But the gingerbread man drew a deep breath and laughed and cried out, Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. I got away from the little old man and woman. I got away from the gentle brown cow. And I can get away from you too. I can. And on he ran with the little old man and woman and the gentle brown cow and the big brown bear all running after him. At last the gingerbread man saw a river before him. But he did not know how he was going to cross it. You know, he'd probably get soggy if he got wet.
Yeah, and sink.
Yeah. But there was a wily red fox sitting near the river. And when he saw the gingerbread man, he decided that he would eat him. But he had to think about this. He had to be smart about it. So as the gingerbread man ran up to the river's edge, the wily fox came out to meet him. Jump on my tail, and I will carry you across the river, the fox called to the gingerbread man. If I do, you will eat me, said the gingerbread man. Ah, nah, declared the fox.
Of course not.
I don't like gingerbread. So, the gingerbread man jumped on the pail, but they started sinking. You know, because the tail kind of goes in the water, you know.
Sure.
So the fox said, jump on my head. So the gingerbread man jumped on the fox's head. But the water was soon creeping up there too. So the wily red fox said, jump on my nose. The gingerbread man jumped onto the fox's nose and snip, snip. That fox gobbled him up. And that is what should have happened to the gingerbread man. Because they're made to eat.
Yeah. Right, or a cookie.
So that was the end of the gingerbread man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, keep came across somebody smarter than him.
He sure did. Serves him right, didn't it? For sure.
I don't know what I'd do when my cookies came to life.
I'd run out of the kitchen. Okay. I'm going to read a story called Cinderella. This is always a very cute story. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Cinderella. She lived with her father and her stepsisters in a huge house. Cinderella was beautiful, but her stepsisters were not. Cinderella was kind and gentle. Her stepsisters were not. They were unkind and spiteful. They spent their time trying to make themselves look pretty, and they made sure Cinderella spent her time cleaning and washing and scrubbing so that she would not notice she was more beautiful than they. One morning when Cinderella was scrubbing the floors, there was a great commotion. "Look what we've got," cried the ugly sisters, dancing around and around the kitchen and leaving a pattern of big muddy footmarks all over the newly washed floor that Cinderella just washed. They dangled a beautiful card under Cinderella's nose. "We've got an invitation to the king's ball."
Ooh, la-ti-da.
"Yeah, we're going to meet the prince." "I dare say he'll want to marry one of us." "Sure, yeah." "Oh, please, may I go to the ball?" asked Cinderella. The ugly sisters hooted with laughter. "You go to the ball? How silly are you? You haven't a thing to wear, and we're certainly not going to let you wear any of our ball gowns." Poor Cinderella. She only had this brown ragged dress and a sackcloth apron. And besides, we will need you to help us get ready. Well, they sound like horrible sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So the ugly sisters had a wardrobe full of these beautiful ball gowns, and they had these trunks full of big old wigs. They used to wear wigs to balls back then. They had boxes and boxes of sweet-smelling powder and wonderful lotions. It took them hours to get ready. Eventually they did, and off they went to the king's ball. Poor Cinderella. She couldn't believe it. The sisters had run her ragged that whole day. Fetch that, alter this, press that, tie this, find that, do it this way, undo it, do it up, stop pulling, pull it tighter. That girl was dizzy from working so hard on her two sisters. Nothing she did really helped them look any better either, because they were just ugly. So there she was, washing the dishes and making a fire, and she was supposed to have dinner waiting for everybody. She sat there after all of her chores were done, and she started to cry. She wanted to go to the ball. Why should she have to stay home? All of a sudden, there was this big flash of light. She thought at first it was a spark from the fireplace. But then she saw this strange little woman wearing a pointed hat and carrying a wand of dancing stars. "Don't be afraid. I'm your fairy godmother, and I'm here to help you get ready for the ball." "But I don't have a dress," she said. "I can't go to the ball wearing rags." "You're not going to wear rags," she said. So she touched Cinderella's tattered little dress with her wand. She changed it into a beautiful ball gown, and she had put glass slippers on Cinderella's bare feet. The fairy called for a pumpkin. She touched that pumpkin with her wand and turned it into a coach. Oh, that would have been fun to see, wouldn't it?
Sure would have been.
And then she turned 8 white mice into 8 white horses, and 6 green lizards into 6 footmen.
Lizards.
Lizard, I know. Ooh. And a rat. Mind you, a rat was a coachman. Oh, man. Her fairy godmother said to her, "You must be home by midnight," she said. "Because if you're not home by midnight, all of this goes away." She says, okay, I'll be home. Cinderella got to the ball, and the king's son noticed her right away. He went over to her and said, may I have this dance? So she just kind of was very shy. She goes, of course. They danced all evening long. He didn't dance with anybody else. He couldn't take his eyes off of her. He thought he loved her. Cinderella had never been so happy in her life. She was so happy, though, she lost track of time. Then all of a sudden she started hearing the clock strike.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so she broke away from the king's son, and she's running and running and running. She lost one of her glass slippers, but she couldn't stop to get it because 9, the clock struck. 10. My gosh, she just ran and ran and ran, and all of a sudden, guess what? Well, the coach turned back into a pumpkin. Everything turned back into mice and to rats.
And lizards.
And lizards. So she went home all barefooted and in her old clothes. The prince couldn't believe it. He couldn't find her. She was very sad. The prince looked down and saw her glass slipper. He says, I will find her. I will marry her. Well, he sent messengers across the land with orders that every girl in the kingdom was to try that slipper on. Eventually, they came to the house where Cinderella and her stepsisters lived. Those 2 ugly sisters were so excited. They took that glass slipper from the messenger before he could say a word. Look, said the oldest, it fits me. It fits me. And the messenger said, no, it doesn't. He said, that big old foot of yours, your heel's hanging out the back of the shoe. Take it off. So she took it off. And the youngest sister said, let me try, let me try. She said, see, it fits me. The messenger said, your toes are bent over double. It doesn't fit you either. Good grief, give me that slipper back. Well, the messenger said, is there anyone else who would like to try on the slipper? Before Cinderella could say anything, one of the sisters clapped a hand over her mouth. She's a servant. That slipper won't fit her. The messenger said, look, I don't care what she is. I've got orders that everybody's got to try on this glass slipper. And of course, the slipper fit perfectly. As she slipped her foot into it, her fairy godmother appeared with her magic wand, and in one hand, the second glass slipper appeared. Cinderella shall marry the prince, she said, and with a touch of her wand, she changed Cinderella's rags into the beautiful gown she had worn the night of the ball. It was you who stole the prince from us, shouted those ugly sisters, their eyes nearly popping out of their head. It's not fair. They stomped their feet and pouted and sulked. No one took any notice of them at all. And why should they? They were ugly on the inside just as they were on the outside. There was a royal wedding, and the king's son and Cinderella lived happily ever after.
That was a very nice story. Those sisters, boy,
Oh, they were
were
horrible.
ugly, mean.
Yes.
Mean.
They shouldn't be that mean. And I bet if they were nicer, you know, that she could have introduced them to somebody at the palace who'd been willing to marry those
Excuse
ugly
me.
girls. Okay, Graham, is there something else you'd like to read?
Well, Graham, I think I'm going to read Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Okay.
Once there were 3 bears. There was a father bear, a mother bear, and a baby bear. One morning, Mother Bear had made porridge for breakfast as usual, and this porridge was very hot this morning. So they decided to go take a stroll through the woods while it cooled. Well, there was someone else walking in the woods that morning. It was a little girl with long golden blonde hair. Her name was Goldilocks. She could smell the beautiful aroma of the porridge, and she followed it with her nose twitching. She came to the open window of the bear's house. She saw the 3 bowls of steaming porridge on the table, and it made her feel so hungry that she climbed through their window. Without so much of a please, may I? anything.
She didn't knock or anything.
Nothing.
Just went in.
Nothing. She just went in and she said to herself, I think I'm going to try some of that porridge. It looks so good. My stomach's growling. I'm hungry. So she tried Papa Bear's porridge first. It was too hot. It burned her tongue. Then she tried Mama Bear's porridge. It was too sweet. She put too much sugar in it. Ugh. So then she tried Baby Bear's porridge. And it was just the way she liked it. She ate it all up. So then she decided to go snooping around the house, opening the cupboards, looking into everything.
Nosy little thing.
Yeah. Then she decided to sit down on Father Bear's big chair. Oh, this chair is too hard. Hurts my butt. Then she sat on Mother Bear's chair. Oh, this is too soft. Too soft. Then she sat on Baby Bear's chair. Oh, it was so comfortable. But you know, she wiggled around and fidgeted too much. She snapped the leg right off the chair.
Oh, goodness.
She fell to the floor, and that little chair was broken.
I'll bet.
So she got up. She decided to go nosing around the bedroom. She sat on Father Bear's big bed. Ooh, this is much too bumpy. She sat on Mother Bear's medium-sized bed. Ooh, this is too soft, squishy. And then she sat on Baby Bear's small bed. Oh, lovely. This is so comfortable. And she fell fast asleep.
Right after eating that porridge.
You're tired. Well, the bears got home, and they could tell somebody had been in their house. Who's been eating my porridge? Growled Father Bear. Who's been eating my porridge? Said Mother Bear. Well, someone ate my porridge all gone, said Baby Bear. So then they went into the living room. Well, who's been sitting in my chair? Said Father Bear. Well, who's been sitting in my chair? Said Mother Bear. Well, someone sat in my chair and broke it.
Poor guy.
And, yeah, he started crying. His chair was broken. Well, then the bears went into the bedroom. Who's been lying in my bed? Said Father Bear. Who's been lying in my bed? Said Mother Bear. Well, someone's lying in my bed right now. Look, said Baby Bear. Well, Goldilocks opened her eyes and she sat up. She saw the three bears staring at her. She jumped up out of that bed. She ran out of the window as fast as she could. Well, the bears didn't bother to chase after her. She looked so frightened they knew she'd learned her lesson. And then she probably wouldn't come back to their house ever again.
Oh no, broke a chair, ate my porridge, and slept in bed.
Right. Well, Mama Bear just decided to make some more porridge. Especially for Baby Bear, because he didn't have no more.
Yeah.
And they all sat down and had their breakfast. And Papa Bear, of course, he fixed Bear's chair.
Oh, sure.
You know, before they ate, too.
Like Goldilocks or something else, wasn't she?
Yeah. Well, that's it, Graham.
Well, that was a fun day, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Well,
Well,
we hope the boys and girls enjoyed the stories. And we'll read you some more later. Come
alrighty.
back and see.
Bye-bye.